Hi everyone and welcome to another video. I've had one of those days today where work was just a lot of work, so I'm really looking forward to just sitting down and talking about books, so I'm really happy to be here. Originally, I was going to talk to you about the books that I've read for my Reading Around the World or Invisible Cities project, but that would require me to have to think. So instead, we're going to talk, well, I'm going to show you the books that I have bought or found or have been given since the 1st of January. My plan is to do 3 book hauls, so every 4 months, to just show you all the books that have come into my life, come into my shelves. Books come in for 2 different reasons. Either I want to read them and therefore buy them, or I have already read them and want to own them. And by looking at it that way, less books come directly onto my TBR because some of these books I have already read. I either buy books, there are 2 ways also in which, 3, mostly 2 ways in which books come onto my shelves. Either I buy them at a store, I try to always go for an independent bookstore, or I find them in free libraries. And there have been some good things in the free libraries. There's also 1 book, I think, 2, from the list that I'm going to show you today that someone else was parting ways with on our book club app, and I was like, Master, this I want it. So those are also there. There are no gifts in this very, very big pile. Don't you love it as well when you go shopping and the people ask you, you know, you've got this pile, big pile, maybe, well, big. For me, big is already more than 2, I already think is a lot of books to buy in one go. And when they ask, oh, is something a present? I'm like, nope, it's all for me. Still a present, but it's a present for me. Anyway, let's go through the books, because they're quite some. They're stacked here, and that's why. The first mini book haul that I did was in January, when I went to France, and that's always a good way for me to get some French books onto my shelves, because reading French books is really one of the only ways that I'm keeping up my French at the moment. I was looking for one that I had already read and that I wanted to own, and that is Arene by Neger Djavadi. I like this writer. She's also the writer of Des Orientales. This one is very different. Des Orientales is about a multifamily saga where people from Iran go to France, and this one is about Paris in the aftermath of the Bataclan and, well, a little bit later already, but how one event, the death of a young man found in the morning, really impacts a lot of people in this harsh Parisian reality. So and I wanted to own this one. Then there are a couple of that I knew that I was looking for. I was looking for The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir that I want to read in French, but didn't find it. But I did find War and Peace, La Guerre et Paix, in 2 volumes. I'm already looking forward to reading this biggie. Of course, it's in tiny font. Yeah, I want to read Russian books in French because they're translated anyway, so why not read them in French to read French? I also got The Master and the Margarita in French, which I'm looking forward to. So we've got these, and then this one can sit with my Anna Karenina from the same publisher, I think. I hope, but at least it's Tolstoy, so my French Tolstoy can be with my French Tolstoy. However, I still need to read The Idiot that I do have in English. This video is going to be chaotic, by the way. Then I also find this one was one that I was not looking for, but I was on a roll, so I got it. It's Comme un empire dans un empire by Alice Zeniter. Alice Zeniter is the writer of another book that I really liked, which is The Art of Losing, which, similar to Des Orientales, is multi-generation, going in that case from Algeria to France. And this one, again, very different. Apparently it's about 2 characters. One is a hacker, the other is an assistant at the parliament, and they meet, they clash, they want to change the world. But I like this author, so I want to give this one a go. Although, to be honest, I have no idea when, but I'm looking forward to reading this. So that was my French book haul. And like I said, in January. And the plan was not to buy any books until I had moved and I had a new bookcase in February. That worked. But there are some books that have come onto my shelves that I found in mini beeps in that time. Let me see if I can find them. I don't really remember when all of these come in. Some of these might have come in just in the 2 weeks after we moved and one maybe just before that. But I found a copy of Room by Emma Donoghue. I read this one already years and years ago. I think already 6 to 7. Someone had gifted it to me, but it was their favorite book, so I wanted to give it back after I had read it. And I'm glad I found a copy because I'm finding I have a liking for Emma Donoghue's work, so then I can put this one with my other Emma Donoghue's books. I'm glad I found that one. I also found another one that I had read a while back, and that's Ali and Nino. This is a lot of fun, to be honest. It's a kind of romance adventure in Azerbaijan, just before the First World War. We meet Ali and we meet Nino. They fall in love, but they're from very different backgrounds. One is Muslim, the other is Christian, and their families don't want them to be together, but he kind of elopes, and that's First World. There's a lot of drama, and I listened to the audio, and what was a lot of fun then was also that there's a part where they flee on horses, and there was the sound of horses and of drums on the background, so this was dramatic romance, and I was so surprised to find this because this is, in my eyes, this was a very niche, obscure little book. Not entirely sure I would recommend it, but it was fun, so I'm glad this is one that if I have it on my shelves, it kind of reminds me of how much entertainment the actual reading was, so I'm glad I found it. I also found Atonement by Ian McEwan. Like this one when I read it, I won't say I find it it's not very special, but I did enjoy the process of reading it. Before the First World War, something happens between two characters, and that is misunderstood by the sister of one, and she tells everybody what she thought she saw, and that impacts their lives very, very heavily. I had borrowed this from a friend, and then could have kept it, but then ended up giving it back, and ever since I find kind of wishing I hadn't given it back at that time and had kept it for myself. So I'm glad I found this one in the free library. Again, I'm glad I found all of these books. And then I also found on my way to work Free Food for Millionaires by Min-Jin Lee. This is the writer of Pachinko, which I, like many other people, loved. But I found that this one is different. This is about a girl in Princeton, and she's originally from a working class Korean immigrants, and it's about that experience. But I was glad I found it because I did want to read it, but now that it's sitting on my shelves, I realized that I'm not really looking forward to reading it. This is one of those, like the 30 others, that I really want to read next. So that says to me that maybe I should part ways with this. I am planning on building a free library myself sometime, maybe. And then this one will probably just go directly into that. Unless maybe in the next month or so I do suddenly find a hungering for this kind of story. Those are the mini beep finds / free library finds at the end of February / the beginning of March. Then I had this wonderful day at the beginning of March when we had moved. I already had my new bookcases, and I was allowed to go visit the bookshops in my new city. There were 3 that I went to. The first one was a little bit in the center, and it had popular things but not really a lot of options, not a lot of English options as well. There was a second-hand bookshop that I'm definitely going to go back to, and there was a third bookshop that was further away but that was a lot bigger and had a lot of options, so I know which ones I'm going back to, and I got myself quite some books. Another book that I had already read was Pride and Prejudice, so I'm glad that my little collection is growing because now look, we've got these 3 together. Always good. And the others were all kind of new. Well, this one is kind of new because it's the Diary of Anne Frank, called The Achterhuis in Dutch. I have read this one, I think 15 years ago, but I read it in French. And this is one I think that, especially living in the Netherlands, I kind of have to own. I think I have to own this. And this one is a new edition. Every year there is an action, this thing in the Netherlands called Geef een boek, where libraries bring out a book for just €2.50, so people can access a popular book for little money. And this year the book was Anne Frank's diary, so that's why I got it. And what you do also with the money that goes to this thing, also with that they gift books also to schools and whatnot. So I am planning on rereading this at some point, but not in the near future. Then I got Dune. This one I have already read. I was interested in this because the movie came out and a lot of people were talking about it, and I was interested in the world building. I have in the meantime decided that I'm not going to continue with the series, but I am going to keep this book, I think, because I kind of like the cover, but I can see myself parting ways with it in maybe 5 years' time or so. At the second-hand bookshop I found The Famished Road by Ben Okri, which I have been meaning to get to at one point for a while now, so I'm happy to have found this. I don't really know what it's about. Oh yeah, it's a young boy that can talk to spirits, so it's a little bit of magic realism, which I really, really like, and I don't read enough of, and I've only heard good things about this one, so happy about that. Then, let me see, where is it? Here it is. I found this treasure also at the second-hand bookshop. French poetry. I'm not one for poetry. Part of the reason is because I think the language thing, poetry that is translated or that is not in my native language, just is more difficult. It just doesn't arrive, and this one is French, so I think this will do something to me. And it's by Rimbaud that I've been meaning to try out. I know one of his poems. There is one of his very famous poems, at least in France, that I've studied at school and I had a vivid recollections of. It's like Le Dormeur du Val Vivant for anyone that speaks French. It's very cinematographic. You start with a very big view of a valley, and then you zoom in to a little stream and a like prairie little thing, and then oh, there's a boy lying in the sun, resting. Oh, he has a smile on his face. Oh, clothes, blah blah blah. Oh, he's a little bit white. Oh, he's probably dreaming about his girlfriend. Oh, and then the last sentence is, in his flank there are 2 red holes. And I remember it because you zoom in like that, and it's very dreamlike. And I'm hoping that the rest of the poetry will be similar. I like kind of the melancholy nature, and that's what I'm hoping to find in this. I also found Bass Rock by Evie Wyld. This is my book club's pick for this month. We're discussing it next week, Tuesday, also for you. So I've been reading this one now, and it was good that I came across it because I couldn't get it from the library or on Scripps. Otherwise I would have had to miss that session, and that's not something that I want to do. And I also found First Woman / bought First Woman by Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi. I have already read this one, but you will see me talk about that in another video. I was hesitating for a long time between this one and Kintu by the same author, but because I love this one, I think I'm also going to like Kintu. They're going to be nice together, right? With the same author and stuff, and I think I really like this style. This one is set in the 70s in Uganda, and we meet a young girl who goes through life and has a lot of women around her. That's all I'm going to say for now, but I really like this. It won the Jalak Prize last year as well. So that was it for March, and maybe if you've seen my video about goals for April, you will know that I just wanted to buy 1 book. That did not work. I feel bad about this because I want to be someone that is in control of their spending habits, because having more books than you can read just doesn't make sense to me in my head. But first off, I came across some good books in a free library. One I had already read, and that was 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I previously read it in Dutch, and I didn't like that edition, so I ended up giving it back to a free library. But I like this cover as well. Even though I kind of wanted to own this one in French, but this cover will do good. So happy for now. At least I have a memory of reading that book on my shelves again, which is a main reason that I like having shelves and having books. Then another very, very good find. was Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. Look at how big this thing is. I love Piranesi, and I had already heard people being very enthusiastic about this one. It's the first sentence of the blurb is, centuries ago, when magic still existed in England, the greatest magician of all was the Raven King, a human child brought up by fairies. I don't need a lot more than that. I think this is going to be very atmospheric. I'm kind of expecting, even though it's very big, that it will be a book that you go through relatively quickly. I hope, because it's a brick. It's a big brick. Yeah, I will let you know what I think about this when I get to it. Then we had a friend that was parting ways with some books, and she was parting ways with Sleeping Giant by, let me see, I can't remember who wrote this. Oh yeah, Sylvain Neuvel. This is science fiction, but it's very dreamlike. I loved reading it, and this cover is gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I still need to read the other books as well. They were really fast. It's about this hand primarily, first of all, this huge hand that is found in the ground, and then we've got this team that is trying to look for other things similar to that and the whole discussion around that. My battery is dying! Let's go through this crack. I also found The Secret History in a free library that I also wanted to own. It's a little bit battered, but it'll do for now. I also bought Educated by Tara Westover that I had already read, but I am planning on rereading now that I own it, which is a lot of fun. Then I also got Moon Witch Spider King by Marlon James. I have just finished rereading the first book of this trilogy, the Black Leopard Red Wolf, and I'm planning on reading this one soon. Look at how gorgeous this cover is. It's going to be great. And then, last but not least, is a non-fiction that you will probably not know. It's a Dutch non-fiction called Revolutie by the Belgian historian David van Rijbroek. I've heard great things about this. This is about the fight for independence of Indonesia. Indonesia used to be a colony of the Netherlands, and there's been a lot more discussion about that. And a Belgian historian talks about his findings on this topic, and apparently he's very detailed. He learned Indonesian, and what I want to do is get a non-fiction book as well about this period by an Indonesian writer, and then see also how both of them contrast, because even though David van Rijbroek is not Dutch, he's still from Belgium, also a colonial power. His other book was about the history of Congo, and you are still going to have a different views on things intrinsically. So I'm very curious to if I find another book on the same topic by an Indonesian writer to compare the two. But apparently this was great, and I want to learn more about this part of the Dutch history because I'm French, therefore I'm interested. So I just did a battery change because, as it turns out, I had more to say than I was able to do in those last 30 seconds. Those were all of the books that came onto my shelves in the last 4 months. I've just kind of counted everything, and apparently in total those are 22 new books. Well, new or older because some are secondhand. In my head that number is a lot smaller because of those 22, 10 are books that I have already read. So 12 are new on my TBR, so unread. And of those 12, then 2 are War and Peace that are in separate volumes. So that's kind of 11. And then one of those is The Diary of Anne Frank, which I've kind of already read, but it's still on my TBR. So 12 new books still to be read. And also, as I said, some came from free libraries. Apparently 8 books in total were from free libraries, so that means that I have bought 14, which is still quite a lot, to be honest. Right now, let's tally up my unread books. So in total, right now, I have 32 unread books, and 22 of those were on my shelves already at the beginning of the year. So that's fine. That means that a third of my shelves are new books, and that I'm also eating away still at the books that I've already owned, which is fine. 32 is okay. If you know that 22 books have come onto my shelves in the past 4 months, and right now me having 32 unread books is okay. That's a number I can live with. I'm someone that likes a smaller TBR. and that want to read books as they come in, which is something I'm still working on, but we all know how that goes. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling because I've been rambling for a while already. I'll see you in another video. Bye.
Ba-chum, ba-chum, chum.